Hi, everyone. Welcome to SGHB TV. I'm your host, Sophia Haber. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with the incredible jazz bassist, the maestro himself, Mr. Ron Carter. Mr. Carter has won numerous Grammy Awards for his work and holds a Guinness Book of World Record for being the most recorded jazz bassist. Today, Mr. Carter will share some incredible stories about his career, his passion for music, and relationships with fellow iconic musicians like Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, and Aretha Franklin. I hope you enjoy the interview. Hi, Mr. Carter.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. I'm good. How are you?
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me. It's an honor to talk to you.
Okay, let's do it then. How are you? Do you feel good? The sun is shining outside, so it's a good day.
Yeah, it is. I saw you play at the Blue Note in New York City in June with my dad, actually, who is a huge fan of you. So that kind
Oh,
of
wow.
inspired me to contact you. And I saw you play with Donald Vega and Russell Malone.
Oh,
So
yes. The trio.
yeah, the trio. So I would love to hear about your passion for music and jazz. Like, why do you love to perform and make music? And also, how has that
Okay,
changed?
wait. That's about 9 questions right there. If you can kind
I
of
know,
break
I
them down,
know.
we can't get this done with all those questions at the same time.
Got it. Okay, so why do you love music and performing?
I think I'm blessed with a spirit that makes me want to communicate with strangers, basically. And by being surrounded by equally interested musicians, in this case, Donald Vega, piano, and Russell Malone, guitar, we all have a need to communicate our story. And we found that the best way to communicate our feelings, in this case, uh, is through music, not just nightclubs, but in general conversations and clinics, uh, in general, the feeling of being able to have people understand your sentence and your feelings by playing the right notes. And every night we go to work, I have a set planned out for the band. And I hope that every night they can read my story and convey our group story to the audience like you, so they leave there feeling that we heard a story and some wonderful music.
Mm,
That's
that's
our goal.
yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how music can tell incredible stories without even you don't even need words. And
Yeah. Well, but you need words too, but music
yeah.
opens the door.
Yeah. And it's even watching you perform, I remember just seeing you guys so connected. I mean, I know you've played with them before, obviously, but it's just amazing how you can just kind of communicate with each other without even talking to each other. And it's like so amazing how music can just connect like that. It's
Yes.
I love
We kind of, sometimes when it happens on a real high level, we don't believe it ourselves.
yeah.
We just enjoy the moment even more.
Hmm. Have you had any really amazing experiences like that? Like you were like, wow, this is amazing that you remember?
Well, I've been active for a very long time, and with a lot of different kinds of groups and stuff like that. And if I single out one or two events, that kind of implies that the others weren't so important.
Yeah.
And that's not what I would mean when I say it. So I try to answer those kinds of questions by saying the following. Each gig I had, each concert I played, whether my band or the other, I was a side man, I treated as I'm going to school free with these people. There's a lesson in how they treat the audience,
Hmm.
how they organize the music, how they write the songs, how they make the arrangements, how I feel to play with them, and what kind of sense of their other needs other than what they gave me to play. Uh, that's a free class for me.
Hmm.
And I've kind of gotten some degrees in these classes 'cause I've been doing it for a long time, you know. I'm an honorary member of that group, you
Hmm.
know. And so that's my driving force, and that's how I try to uh, uh, not be important in their life, but be another ring in their tree and help them grow.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. It's it's amazing that you have that philosophy on these things. And well, first of all, that you're so inclusive and you don't want to like highlight one group because you know that
I
that's
can't do that. That's not fair to them, and clearly
yeah,
not fair to me.
yeah, definitely. Um, but yeah, it's cool that you have this lifelong learning type of mindset that you feel
Yeah.
like even though you're like the most experienced jazz musician, but you still feel like you're learning. It's such a cool thing. So I also want to talk about playing with Miles Davis. How did you start playing with him and get involved with his
Um, Quintet.
quintet? Yeah, sorry.
No, 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 no. This is a general um, not misunderstanding, but incorrect information. When I joined the Miles Band, it was a sextet,
Oh.
3 horns and 3 rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened because his original band with Paul Chambers and Jimmy Cobb and Wynton Kelly, they were leaving Miles's band to be a quartet with Wes Montgomery.
Mm.
And so I was working this gig with Art Farmer, who's a really great trumpet player, and the Jim Hall guitarist, who you may know his work. And Miles came in one night to our gig and told me that he explained the story. My band is leaving me to join Wes Montgomery. I need a bass player to go to California with me in 2 days. Is that available? And I said, no. I'm working with Art Farmer for the next 2 weeks. And if you, Mr. Davis, will ask Art Farmer to let me go for my commitment to him, if he says yes, I'll be on the plane tomorrow. If he says no, I'll be on the plane in 2 weeks. So he walked over to Art Farmer. They had a great conversation. And Art said, okay, you can go with Miles. And I joined Miles the next night
Wow. That
with a sextet.
yeah.
There's
That's
Harold Maber on the piano, Frank Strozier, alto, George Coleman, tenor, and Miles, me and Jimmy Cobb and Harold Maber on the piano again.
mm. And did you have any idea how successful that would become, or you were just there for the music and to experience it?
All of the above.
Oh
I
yeah.
thought that whoever was ultimately in the band, and I don't know who that would be a chance to play some really good music because they were really quality players, whoever he would choose, because he chose them. Uh, we plural have no idea that they will have that kind of impact on the music scene
Mm-hmm.
as we speak. And I think no one recognized the effect of it until it stopped happening,
Mm-hmm.
or when people started to imitate it or take it somewhere else. They had a difficult time analyzing, well, what's making it go somewhere else, other than going where, but we all hope that we're making an impression on Sophie, Sophia or Sophie,
Sophia.
Sophia. We all hope that when we finish playing, we have left a mark in music, not just for us personally, but the field of music, which is really big. And a lot of people, a lot of different genres, a lot of different keys, a lot of different tunes. We like to think that we made another brick in the history of jazz, but we don't really determine that. People do. And like you, now you're one of our fans right now. So you're the next link to somebody else knowing about the music. We hope that happens, like a chain reaction.
Yeah, that's great. And I would love to hear, what was your musical chemistry like with Miles Davis and some of the other people you've played with?
I'm not sure what you mean chemistry.
Like, I've heard you talk in some interviews about playing with different people was like you have different, like it's different to play with different people, and like how was it to be instructed by him, and was it like a give and take, or was he instructing you a lot, or just how did you feel about your relationship with him?
Okay. Um, well, he trusted me implicitly.
Mm,
I think when I didn't quit Art Farmer's group on the spot to join his band, and I made him responsible for that happening, not me responsible for it. I think he saw me on a different level.
mm,
Someone who had a pretty broad scope and understanding of life, even at my younger age. Then he was 10 years, 12 years old, or whatever it was. And as it turned out, I ultimately was a guy who paid the band, who I checked the train reservations or plane reservations, hotel stuff. I was kind of the on-the-road business manager because he trusted me with those kind of necessary details that had to be confirmed. Uh, he found within me, I think, Sophia, a partner who could talk about things other than music.
mm,
We never discussed music. We discussed politics. We discussed the black politics in Harlem. You know, we talked about the stock market. At the time, Miles was a real major figure in the sports scene, and I got a chance to meet a lot of famous people who came to hear the band and see Miles. Uh, I got a chance to go to his home. He loved my kids. I had two sons at the time, and I'd take them by, and I was just hang out with them and practice boxing with them, and just a real general Uncle Miles kind of situation.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I was important in his life because of the character I brought to the bandstand. He trusted my musical judgment. He never told me what to play or what not to play,
Hmm.
or am I going to be late today again? No, we never had that kind of relationship because I was never late. I was really responsible, and not that he was looking for these flaws, but I just didn't present those to him. And unfortunately, he can't answer for himself because I'm sure his answer was a little bit more extensive than mine.
Uh, that's a wonderful relationship. I mean,
Yeah, we had a good time.
yeah, that's great. And I would love to hear about some other people that you played with too, like Herbie Hancock too. Can you talk about your relationship with him a
Well,
little
Herbie's still on the scene, so it's still growing.
bit?
I did the I went to California with him for him to do the Wayne Shorter tribute that they had at the Hollywood Bowl. Herbie is very organized. He's got a lot of things going. He trusts people who he hires to take some of the weight off of him.
Mhm.
Uh, he's a very gentle man. He's a very caring person. Caring not only because I'm his friend, he cares for my family. He
Mhm.
wants to know how am I doing. Uh, he wants to call me and say, "Hey, how are you? What's the story?" He's that kind of all-inclusive friend, and I miss him. Not talking to him as often as I would like to.
Yeah. Oh, and I saw a few years ago you did an interview with him, right?
Yes, yeah.
Saw that it was such a cute interview. You guys have such a cute banter back and forth, and just the way you communicate is just great.
I miss that. We don't do. We have our own careers right now. I mean, really careers. And while we don't talk as often as we did, he was in town maybe 2 months ago doing on a business trip,
Mm.
and he was happened to be working, the business meeting had to take place in my neighborhood near my live. So after his finished his meeting, he called me up and said, "Can I come by?" 2 hours later, he's still there. So I had a great time.
Oh, that's great. That's so nice. Um, who else? Thelonious Monk too. Can you talk about him?
Um, the relationship wasn't lasting long because I just met him overnight, basically. My friend, who was a bass player named Sam Jones, was Monk's bass player. And at some point in his career, they were working in New York at a place called Circle in the Square down in the village.
Mhm.
Sam got sick one night with the flu. So he called me that afternoon and said, could I make this gig with him? I said, yeah, who's with who? He said, well, Thelonious Monk. I said, who? He said, Thelonious Monk. I said, that Monk? He said, yes, no, Carter, it's Thelonious Monk. I said, I'll call him and tell him you meet him at the theater at 7 o'clock and do the show. I said, really? He says, come on. Oh, I said, wait, Sam. So I go to the theater at early, about 6:30, and I meet Mr. Monk, who's really a big person physically, tall, bulky. And he says, are you subbing for Sam Jones? I said, yes, I am. He says, do you know my music? I said, well, I know some of the songs. He said, well, tonight we'll find out how many you don't know. And we did a concert, and after next week, it's going to Philadelphia for a week. So I got in a car with him, drove to Philadelphia. We commuted to Philadelphia for a week at the place called the Show Place. Uh, he would have hired me for his band, but he found out I was going to school, so he said, I can't hire you because you're going to school.
Oh, mm.
That's our relationship.
Wow, that's great. And also, talk about Aretha Franklin too.
Uh, she's pretty surrounded by her entourage, and I appreciate that. She's protecting her, literally. Uh, but she had a really great ear. She could hear everything, and she's a good piano player for what she needed. And she respected jazz players because she knew what they were going through and how difficult work was, and how sincere they were when they played the music. They were really into the music. They weren't killing time. They weren't just kind of part-time. They were really serious about this music. And she had a flair for the style, and she understood the concept. And when she did a jazz kind of record, she hired the real jazz players. Made a record with her called Soul 69, which is a big band with some really wonderful jazz players. And man, she was all over it. It was wonderful to see her stretching out and getting a chance to play with the guys who she may have heard about or knew of their music by records and friends. But now she's in the middle of a 16-piece band with some great arrangements, and she was really the queen that day, and we appreciated that sincerity on her part.
That's great. And did you ever get a chance to interact with Elvis Presley or no?
Not at all.
No. I just wondered because you were alive during the same time, so
No, I never saw him perform only on TV, but never met him at all.
yeah, I just wondered.
Mhm.
So what do you feel like when you're performing on stage? Like, do you have any rituals that you have when you perform, or what are you thinking when you play your music?
Well, I don't have, my ritual is getting there on time.
Mm.
And if there's a room, to make sure that everything's in place, the amp is okay, those kind of details, I kind of do that myself.
Mhm.
Uh, my One of the things I learned from the Miles Davis band is that every night you go to work, it's a chance to play some really wonderful music. And I try to open my mind to that option and not let the day's events get too much in the way of that. You know, we're a product of what we hear, what we see, what we're involved in, other than our occupation, I think. And there's so much stuff going on in the world, it's hard not to let that bleed into your occupation, especially when you're so sensitive to the environment, which is what we do. We're sensitive to our environment 24/7. You know. So one of the things I don't do when I'm going to work, I don't listen to music. I just kind of keep my own thoughts. I think I'm like a sponge at those points, and I don't want to let those other influences, whether it's music or politics or just the events of the day, necessarily overwhelm my plan for tonight's chance to play better music.
Mm. That's a great outlook. That's smart to not let outside things affect you before your performance. That's
We do the best we can, but sometimes we aren't, the events are so overwhelming we cannot ignore them. You
Mhm.
know,
And what do you think about when you play? Are you thinking about the notes that you're playing or you're thinking about something else?
I'm thinking about everything. I'm thinking about whether the band is in tune. I'm thinking about whether or not the tune is too fast than the last time we did it. I'm thinking about, are these the best changes we can play? Why is this song going on so long? What's the next song? All these factors are part of what I think, as well as listen to the band individually and collectively. Listen to the drummer all the time. Listen to I'm listening to everybody. It's like a stereo.
Mm.
Got all these sounds coming in. And they're doing like this. I'm trying to sing out which one is most important for me right this very moment. That one. Okay, let me focus on that. But this is still going on. It's a pretty complicated occupation we have.
Mm.
There's a bass player who plays all the notes all the time. I'm 28, is it 24/7? 28, 14.
That's great. Wow. Yeah, I wondered if you're maybe you're not thinking about the music and then you just come in with the music, or I wondered what you're thinking, you
No,
know?
no, no. I'm a full-time guy.
Yeah, that's great. I assumed you would be. I just wondered since
No,
you
no, no. It's okay.
yeah. And I also wanna know about you teaching students. What inspires you to teach students?
I think that um, we, my age group, have been on the scene for a really long time. And we're recognizing that someone has to continue this tradition. Who's going to do that? There are guys who play good enough to do that, but they aren't interested in teaching. That's okay. You know, there are guys who didn't play good enough who are teaching, and they do a great job of teaching. So you got these kind of people in the teaching scene who maybe have a responsibility in terms of being the people who know the music firsthand and have experienced in dealing with people who are lesser players than they are on the bandstand. But teaching in the classroom is a little more complicated. And many of those people who play good enough to teach haven't done the work to understand how to teach. And they aren't experienced enough to be effective teachers. Well, I've been teaching a long time, since 1959, officially, you know. And one of the reasons I teach Sophia is that I want the students to understand what's necessary to earn a living playing this music. You know, I'm a bass player, so I'm primarily my instrument is teaching bass. So I
Mm.
try to show them not just the instrument, but the choices they have in playing this instrument. Try to show them discipline of practice. I try to be an example of the good habits and the routines and responsibilities we as teachers have to the younger generation. We have to set an example. We have to be the guy say, okay, he showed me that last week. Or what does he know? What does he know this week that he will impart to me? Oh, he did that already, but let me see it again. Those kinds of details. Africa is known for having griots, which are the storytellers. I think I'm one of those storytellers.
That's great. And yeah, it's music. It's so much more than just learning the notes, right? It's about embodying a musician, and yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any final advice for young people involved in music that you could pass down?
Well, I want them to hear as much as they can, before they lock into a specific genre that interests them. But the music's so available everywhere, in the grocery store, in the in the street bands and the buskers, music's everywhere. Now, I'd advise them to hear as much as you can before you decide that this is what I want to do. Secondly, get a teacher. They're the guys and gals who can show you how best to play your instrument, to express those thoughts. And thirdly, when you get a gig, get a good meal that morning, because that may be the only meal of the day. After the gig, go home at night and get some sleep. Not complicated rules.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much for talking to me this morning. It was incredible to hear your wisdom and your insights and your amazing stories. So, yeah, thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you.
Thank you. When I see you again, say hello.
Yeah, definitely.
And thank your dad for bringing you to the music.
Yeah, I will. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to watching you
Bye.
again. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of SGHB TV with special guest Mr. Ron Carter. I'm your host, Sophia Haber Brock. Thanks for watching.